All right, you're gonna want to buckle up. Probably set this one on two speed, 2x speed, 2x speed, double speed. This is probably gonna be a long one. So I just finished Cixin Liu. We'll say how that's pronounced. This novel, Death's End, the third and final book of the what is this one called? The Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy. And each subsequent book is 100 pages longer. So this one is almost twice the size of the first book. It's very, very long. And in order to keep track of what happened, I've wrote notes, and I wrote 9 pages of notes. Yikes. So this one, I tried to figure what to call it. So I tried writing words like, it has a melancholic optimism. Then I was like, maybe an optimistic melancholy. And then I chose words like hopeful. So a hopeful melancholy, or melancholic hopefulness. I don't know how to describe it, basically. Horrible, awful things happen, and it's like existential. Humanity is in trouble over and over again, but it seems to be hopeful in that there's never truly an end. There's always something, some miracle, some little bit of humanity squeaks through and manages to survive, despite the massive, massive loss that everyone experiences in this book. So I said humanity coming up against the wall time and again, but persevering. Humanity losing again and again, but somehow surviving, pushing through hard times and times of extreme loss, but some fragment of the germ that is humanity somehow makes it through. And that sort of metaphor of humanity as a bacterium, and you just need one bacterium in the right environment, it can replicate itself and quickly take over a space. That's what humanity is like. If we have billions of humans, and if they're all wiped out, but for a few thousand, from that few thousand we can recreate humanity, just like what happened in the Ice Age. But anyways, so this one has many different time periods. The last book had sort of 2 main time periods. This one we have many time skips, and I think they referred to they used the metaphor of the character skipping like a stone across time's surface, which I thought was very, very apt and very beautiful in a way. So the character, like, she's late 20s, early 30s throughout the whole book, but she experiences, well, centuries and then millions and millions of years, billions of years by the end of it, but we'll get there. And it's really interesting because it starts in 1453, which in none other than Constantinople, the capital of the Roman Empire, weeks before the final collapse of the millennia-long rule of the Romans. And it's strange. It's like, why am I reading a period piece set in the 15th century? And I thought we were going to get some like weird alternate timeline where the siege of Constantinople fails and Constantinople survives and Rome survives, and an alternate history where the Roman Empire never fell. And I kind of got excited, but it was just him giving us just teasing us with that potential timeline and then taking it away. So in this world, there is this character, this woman who has this magic that anything that's sealed, she's able to see inside of it and remove things from it. And she removes some treasure from a sealed tomb, which is how they find out about her. And then she removes the brain from this assassination target and kills him. And so the emperor says, if you can kill not Saladin, wow. Is it Saladin? I think it's not Saladin. I think I'm getting it's Suleiman, isn't it? Suleiman the Magnificent? I'm getting it mixed up. Anyways, whoever it is, the head of the Ottoman army. I think it's Ottoman. Oh, I'm really messed up now. Anyways, she's supposed to kill this guy, and if she had done that, then Constantinople and Rome would have survived. But she loses her powers at this time, and it's only revealed later in the book that this was all because a 4th dimensional pocket of space-time was passing through the solar system at this time. And so this woman could enter this 4th dimensional pocket, and in the 4th dimensions she could see three-dimensional things were totally open to her. She could access sealed things from the fourth dimension. And that's how she was doing her stuff. Anyways, so that's how it opens. And then it jumps back in time from the second book. We jump to the Crisis era, where the crisis is that Trisolaris has been notified of the location of Earth, and they're sending a fleet to come and destroy Earth and conquer Earth. And this character Cixin, which I hope I'm pronouncing that right, she's hired onto something called the Staircase Project, which like a staircase where you do a step and a step and a step. This is one where they're launching something into space, and it's her idea, is to detonate nuclear bombs that push it and speed it up until it's past another nuclear bomb, which explodes and then pushes it and speeds it up, and another nuclear bomb, and step, until it eventually gets close to the speed of light. And they want to send this thing out to the Trisolaran fleet that's on its way in order to spy on them or something. We are also introduced to her boss, this guy Thomas Wade, who's got sort of no morals, no scruples. He's pure ambition, pure drive. He's just go, go, go. He doesn't care no matter what it takes. He's actually an interesting character, especially by the end of it. So they're working on this staircase project, and it turns out that because of the weight restrictions, they can't send a probe, and then they're like, well, we'll send a person, and then it turns out, no, even a person's too big in the hibernation system. So they decide that they're going to send a human brain, and they're like, the Trisolarans are so advanced that if they get this human brain, they could clone a body for them and resuscitate them, and they'd want to do this because they'd want to study a human. This would be the first contact between Trisolaris and humanity. But it would also mean that humanity would have sort of a man or a person on the inside, as it were. And so they decide to go ahead with this idea, but they open up a euthanasia program where people who are suffering from terminal diseases can end their lives, and someone from that pool will be selected, and their brain will be selected. And so they choose this guy Yun Tianming, and he's dying of cancer, and he's kind of suicidal, and he's like, I failed in life, and he reflects on his past. He thinks about this girl Cixin that he knew in college that he was really in love with and whatnot. And then he comes into a whole bunch of money, and he's like, what am I going to do with this money? And at this time, the UN's having a program to sort of buy your own star, and if you purchase a star, that means you have full rights to the star and use of the star, and it's like super legally binding, and no one can take that away from you. But it's a way to help raise money for this this crisis that they're in with Trisolaris. And so he buys a star for Cixin. He doesn't tell her that it's him. He just secretly buys it for Cixin. So Cixin finds out she bought the star. She's like really romantic about it. Like, who bought me a star? Wow, that's amazing. But she's also thinking like, Yun Tianmin, he would make a great subject. He's dying of cancer. Man, we'll have to get him and use his brain. So they go ahead and Tianming dies, and they launch his brain off into space. But something goes wrong, and it sort of gets off course and gets blasted out near the speed of light. Not near the speed. I think it's only like 1% of the speed of light, but it ends up going the wrong direction. And it's basically his brain's going to go out into interstellar space for eternity. And Cixin feels really sad about that, but then she realizes that, or she finds out that he was the one who had bought her the star, and it just really breaks her. There's a lot of really emotional moments in this book, but they didn't really land for me, and I think that's a translation thing. There wasn't that much of an impact, or could have just been me. Anyway, so they're in the crisis era, right? And Cixin goes into hibernation, and she's like, okay, I failed. The staircase project has failed, but I'll go into hibernation. They can wake me up in the future, and if they need me for anything, if the staircase project, if they need a liaison or some information about the project in the future, I'll be that person. So she goes into hibernation. And then we enter the deterrence era. So deterrence, this is how the end of the last book, we had the Wallfacer project, Wallfacer Luoji, who created this mutually assured destruction where if if Trisolaris attacked Earth, then he would broadcast the location of Trisolaris to the universe, which would cause a dark forest strike because of the dark forest phenomenon, where intelligent life that reveals itself is immediately killed because it's seen as a threat. So if Trisolaris attacks Earth, then the location will be revealed. So there is a sort of a Cold War truce between Earth and Trisolaris at this time, the deterrence era. And it's sort of a golden age of hubris and technology and growth and whatnot. But it turns out that so originally Luoji had set up these sort of things around the solar system that if they exploded, when he dies, they'll explode and send out the signal. But they construct all these gravitational wave generators to reveal the location of the Earth or of Trisolaris more reliably. But they decide that for deterrence, they can't have a committee that would decide on it. It's like nuclear launch codes. You can't have a Cooper committee sit down and think, should we retaliate back while the missiles are inbound? You need to have one person who has that godlike power, and that person becomes known as a sword holder, because they are holding a sort of Damocles over both Trisolaris and Earth. And so, of course, Luoji, because he sort of set up this thing, he's been the sole sword holder for this whole time. So is it Chen Zin or Chen Xin? I'm gonna say Chen Zin. Chen Zin is awoken because her star is found to have hospitable planets about it. So she's still the owner of this star that Tianming bought for her. But she gets awakened by this astronomer. We'll call her AA. She's got a name that's a mix of English characters and Chinese characters, but we'll call her AA. And she sort of becomes her best friend / assistant, and continues with her for just about the rest of the story. And so Chenzin's awakened. They're like, hey, we found some habitable planets around your star. Holy cow, you're like the richest person in the world now. But what are you going to do? So she decides to sell the rights to the energy from the star, and also the rights to the planets for settlement and habitation and exploitation and whatever. Only saying that she wants to keep the rights to the star itself, because Tianming gave it to her, and she wants to keep it as sort of a gift. And so that makes her enormously wealthy, and she founds this space construction company that gets run by this AA woman. So Luoji, who is the sword holder, he's over 100 now, so he's going to retire, and they need a new sword holder. And there's a debate about who they're going to choose. Thomas Wade is one of the potentials, because he's hibernated as well, so he's still around. And he tries to kill Chen Zin. He's like, I have to do it so that I can be the sword holder, because I would be the one. I would be a better sword holder than you. And when he does this, he gets attacked by the police, and they blow his arm off, which he never ever gets replaced, even though he could, and gets sent into prison. So Chen Zin is then chosen as the next sword holder, and the moment the handover happens of the, not metaphorical, a literal big red button, the Trisolarans call her bluff and are like, Luoji, we didn't trust Luoji. We knew he would destroy the worlds, but this Chen Zin, what's she gonna do? So all these Trisolaran probes that have been around Earth suddenly rush in and destroy all the gravitational wave generators and antennae, and Chen Zin throws the control away and refuses to initiate the broadcast. And thus we enter the not quite the post deterrence era. I say thus we enter the post deterrence era. But meanwhile, two ships. This is during the deterrence era. Two ships that had escaped the Doomsday Battle. I believe one's called Blue Space, and the other's called Bronze Age. They had been going in opposite directions, and they both had I forget what they called it, some sort of a battle in space where they sort of lost all their human morals, and they totally cut themselves off from Earth and became this sort of different totalitarian state where it was fight of the fittest, and sort of their own mini Dark Forest experiment. Anyways, these two ships get recalled to Earth. They're like, hey, we're in the deterrence era now. We don't have to worry about the threat of Trisolaris. Earth's safe. You can come back. So Bronze Age comes back first, and they're sort of greeted with open arms, and then eventually they are all court-martialed, all arrested, and said, you've committed crimes against humanity. We are going to lock you guys up forever, or / execute you, or whatever. But the captain of Bronze Age managed to send a message to I think it's called Blue Space, the other ship, saying, Earth has abandoned you, don't come back, keep going into interstellar space. And so that ship keeps heading out into interstellar space, and they send a ship out. Earth sends a ship out to capture it, one that is better fueled and will catch up to it, but it will take 50 years to catch up to it. This ship's called Gravity because it has a gravitational antenna inside of it and can send the coordinates out to space. And a couple Trisolaran or 3 Trisolaran probes go with it to help. And they could rush ahead and destroy the ship, but because it's the deterrence era and Earth has a lot of say, they're like, no, you can just escort us. So they go out there, and it does take 50 years to catch up. By the time they do this, they're outside the solar system, and they enter into this fourth dimensional pocket. And unbeknownst to the crew of Gravity, the crew of Blue Space, who are being pursued, enter this fourth dimensional space, and thus are able to, much like the girl in Constantinople, remove things from inside of sealed 3-dimensional containers. And so they mess with the guts of the Trisolaran probes and destroy them. Then they also manage to invade and take over the ship Gravity. And they do this around the same time that the probes start to attack Gravity, because the handover between Liu and Cixin has occurred. And so this is just the cusp of post-deterrence era. But they managed to stop the destruction of Gravity, and so they still have this one gravitational wave generator. And they're like, look, Trisolaris has attacked Earth. They're going to destroy Earth. We have to send the signal out. So they vote, and they agree because they've got different morals than the rest of humanity, and they agree to reveal the location of Trisolaris, which in turn will reveal the location of Earth. So they do it. The broadcast goes out and dooms all of humanity and Trisolaris. But before they find out that this has happened, we have a short post-deterrence era brought back on Earth. So there's this android woman named Sophon, who is controlled by Trisolaris. She acts as a sort of a liaison during the deterrence era with Earth. But during the post-deterrence era, she acts as sort of the one in charge, the sort of the dictator on behalf of Trisolaris, and she's getting Earth ready for the Trisolaran invasion. So she plans this great resettlement where she takes all of humanity, all billions of them, and puts them on Australia. She says, you guys can live on Australia. I'm going to take away all your technology, everything you have. We're going to put all of you on Australia, and billions of you are going to die, but that will reduce the population enough that Earth will be able to be inhabited by Trisolarans. And so this great resettlement happens, and it's a bit of a mess. But eventually it's revealed that Gravity has sent the signal out, and that both Earth and Trisolaris are doomed. So the Trisolarans just turn away, and Sophon sort of gives up. It's like, oh, okay, well, you guys don't have to go to Australia anymore, and everyone goes back, even though I think millions have died during this great resettlement, or tens of millions. So Cixin is feeling pretty bad. If she had have let Wade be the sword holder, this never would have happened. Trisolaris would not have attacked if Wade was the sword holder, and they'd still be in the deterrence era. If she had broadcasted the signal, she would have saved them this great resettlement on Australia and all the millions that had died, because the result would have been the same. So it's a lot of mistakes a lot of this book is sort of mistakes or choices that Cixin makes that sort of really mess things up, or just cause a lot of pain and suffering in the short term and long term. So then the post-deterrence era is over. It's pretty short, and then the broadcast era starts. So the broadcast has gone out, and now there's a sort of a ticking time bomb that's eventually going to destroy both these solar systems. So as the Trisolarans are leaving, they reveal that they actually caught up with Yun Tianming, was Brain, and they reconstituted him. The seeds that Chen Zin sent with him, he's been growing crops, and he wants to have a chat with Chen Zin. So him and Chen Zin get to have a chat, but Trisolaris is very careful about censoring what he says. And they're like, if you say anything that reveals any technology or any plans we have, we'll blow up and kill Chen Zin. And so he's like super clever, and he's been creating these stories, these fairy tales for the Trisolarans, and a couple of them have like super sensitive information embedded in them, but he's been sharing these stories with the Trisolarans so much that they just see them as fairy tales. And so he shares a number of 3 of these fairy tales with Chen Zin, and we get all the fairy tales, but I'm not going to go through all of them. But anyways, and then we have, during the broadcast era, humanity trying to dissect these stories and figure out what sort of secrets and technology they should be working on, how they can avoid the Dark Force strike, as it's called. And before So Fun leaves, she has a chat with Chen Zin and Luo Ji. She really respects Luo Ji, and Luo Ji says, grant me one question. And they're like, we respect you so much, we will tell you the absolute truth, but it has to be a yes or no question. He says, is there a way for humanity to protect itself from a Dark Force strike? And she just says, yes. So they know there's a possibility, and so they're scouring these fairy tales, and they come up with 2 main ways to do it. Light speed travel. Chen Zin, Tianming, one of his stories tells them how to achieve, or what they should do to achieve light speed travel, because it's revealed that the Trisolarans have light speed. So they could do that and flee the solar system, or they can reduce the speed of light inside the solar system. So the speed of light is currently like 300,000 kilometers a second or something like that. But if they can reduce it to, I think it was 17 kilometers per second or something like that, the speed at which you need to be able to escape the solar system, if they can reduce the speed of light by that much, so like the speed of light, if light cannot travel faster than that, and thus nothing can travel faster than that, then light will not escape the solar system, but will be held in by the solar system's gravity, which will effectively create a massive black hole around the solar system in which nothing escapes. And they refer to this as the black domain, which would cause humanity to be trapped inside the solar system and never, ever be able to escape it. Reducing the speed of light in a localized area would also make computers ineffective, since computers rely on the speed of light being super fast to perform lots of calculations and computations. So humanity would thus be reduced to a lower technological level. They would be hidden from the universe, and the universe would see that, oh, they're not a threat now. They know nothing inside that system can leave that system, so they're not a threat. So those are their 2 options: to sort of hide within a bubble of light speed reduced space-time, or to flee at the speed of light. Fleeing at the speed of light is looked down upon because it's seen as escapism, and it's seen as something that the ultra-rich will be able to do, and only a few will be able to escape. And who do you send, and who stays? And so they're like, no, we're not even going to deal with that. The other one, the Black Domain Project, it seems like impossible. They're like, how do we reduce the speed of light? That just sounds crazy. So they settle on this third option, known as the Bunker Project, where they're like, well, we saw that one system destroyed by a Dark Forest strike, that Luo Ji, when he cast his spell on a planet. It was a photoid, a small mass at a high speed that struck the sun. The sun sort of exploded and blew up the solar system. Same thing happened with Trisolaris. Oh, I didn't even talk about that. But Trisolaris eventually gets destroyed by another photoid that hits one of the suns, and there was only one planet in the Trisolaran system that got destroyed. So they're like, oh, so when that happens to our planets or our sun, we will just hide behind the gas giants and they will shield us and we'll be able to survive. So they create all of these space cities that they hide behind the gas giants. And they're like, oh, we'll totally be safe when the sun blows up. However, that's just assuming that the Dark Forest Strike will be the same as the others. So then we get a view from an alien entity who is creating these Dark Forest Strikes. And it's interesting, and it reveals that this isn't like some super powerful galactic empire that's like killing anyone that reveals themselves. It's sort of a low-level bureaucrat whose only job is to like sort of look out on the galaxy and the universe, and anytime he sort of sees a bit of life pop up, he sort of sees it as a threat because it's not smart enough to hide itself, and so it must be eliminated. And he looks over the solar system and he's like, well, I can't just send a photoid strike because I think it reveals it, or it describes it as being, there's lots of corners that people can hide behind. So he has this special, it has this special weapon called a dual vector strike or something that it sends out to the solar system. And that thing is something that reduces the dimensionality of the universe, of space-time in the solar system. So what it's going to do is it's going to reduce the solar system from a three-dimensional space into two-dimensional space. It's going to make it flat, a plane. Just kind of like four-dimensional space, which we've seen four-dimensional space into three-dimensional space. Well, we're going from 3 to 2. So while this is happening and the bunker project's ongoing, Cixin, I forget why, but she still as a fan of lightspeed travel, which is sort of kind of banned. But Wade, who's still around, he's out of prison now. He's like, Cixin, you could give me all your money, give me all your assets, give me your whole company. You go hibernate. I will be in charge. I will continue lightspeed research. She's like, okay, but condition is that you have to wake me up when I find it, and I am allowed to take total control back if I deem it necessary. And he's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. So she goes back into hibernation, and then we're in the bunker era at this point. So Chang and AA, her assistant, is always hibernating with her at this point. They're wakened by Wade, and he's like, I've made huge progress on lightspeed technology. He shows them he can move her hair from one place to another almost instantaneously. And he's like, but the only way we can continue this research is if we start doing testing, and the society won't let us. Like all the bunkers, all the space cities are now hiding behind the different planets. And he's like, they're not going to like it. He's like, but we have these antimatter bullets that we've created because they created a, what do they call it? Like a large hadron collider only around the sun. So they're speeding up particles near the speed of light, shooting them around the sun. And they've collected lots of antimatter and put in these guns. They're like, we can go rogue. We can take on all of humanity and sort of declare our independence from humanity and do this research into lightspeed travel. He's like, we can do it. And she's like, no, that's horrible. We're not going to blow up half of humanity and cause this civil war just to do this. She's like, turn yourselves in. I'm back in charge. And because he promised that, he's like, well, crap, I've been doing this for the past 50 years. I'm like a super old person now, but if that's what you want, fine. I made a promise, whatever. So Wade gives up. He's tried for crimes against humanity and executed. And then Chen and AA, they're like, well, what do we do now? They're like, I don't know. Let's just go back into hibernation until the Dark Forest Strike occurs. They think they're safe from it behind Jupiter. So they do go back into hibernation. And then, like I said, this two-dimensionalization of the solar system is revealed to start to be occurring. So they're awoken, and they're sort of just shocked. They watch planet after planet fall into this two-dimensional plane. And initially, it's sort of the energy released from going from 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions causes it to the planets to sort of glow on this almost like a painting. And even the sun, when it does initially glows, but physics works different in two-dimensionality, and so the sun dies and all the planets go dark and the whole solar system becomes two-dimensional. sort of slowly over time. And the only way to escape it is to escape at light speed, but they don't have light speed travel. So then Chenzin's like, oh, I should have just let Wade continue. That's like her third mistake. If she would have just let Wade continue with light speed travel, she could have saved humanity, but she didn't. And so she and AA, they take this ship from that her company has made for her, and they go to Pluto, which is the furthest planet, not planetoid, from the sun, and there's a museum there, the Museum of Human Civilization, where all humanity's artifacts are kept. And they're like, go there, take a bunch of the artifacts and throw them out into space so that when we turn into a two-dimensional thing, they'll be visible and people can, other aliens, if they ever come across us, can see some of humanity's civilization and arts and culture and whatever. And when they get there, the curator of the museum is Luoji, who's like 200 years old at this point. And so they load up their ship with a whole bunch of this art and stuff, and then they're like, so I guess this is it. They're watching the solar system turn into two dimensions. They're watching this space stations with lots of people on it sort of fall into this two dimensions and die. And then Luoji's like, guess what? 35 years after you went into hibernation, we started doing lightspeed research again, and we actually discovered it. So now we have lightspeed ships, or actually they have one lightspeed ship, and you guys are on it. So Cixin AA, along with a bunch of humanity's art, has the ability to escape the solar system, and so they do. And of course, as a destination, they set as Tianming's star that he gave to Cixin. So the journey takes them 52 hours at light speed. However, in Earth time, that's subjective. 300 years have passed, so they're 300 years into the future in just 52 hours, and they sort of circle this planet, which turns out to be hospitable, which is around their star. And you think like, oh, it's gonna end. This sort of fragment of humanity has survived, and they've taken all the arts and cultures out of humanity with them. And they get there and they land, and it turns out there's another human there. And this human is, I can't remember his name, which I really should for the sake of this video, but he is one of the civilians that was aboard Gravity, the sort of the galactic humans. There's the solar system humans and the galactic humans. And he's like, hey, you guys are from the solar system. Wow, cool. Humanity has founded 4 worlds, or settled 4 worlds, terraformed 4 worlds in the past 300 years. He's not going to tell the location of them because that's sort of a faux pas. You do not tell people where the planet is located in this sort of dark forest world. And he shares a lot of different things. He talks about how there's an understanding that in the sort of Edenic age, they call it, back when the universe began, light speed was near infinite. There were 10 or 14 dimensions instead of the 3 that exists in most of the universe now. But that over time, different civilizations and species have fought wars, and their only tactic was to reduce light speed, or to reduce the dimensionality of the universe for their enemies. So that's brought light speed down to 300,000 kilometers per second, and brought the universe down to 3 dimensions, which is where they're at now. And that's why they still see these 4th dimensional bubbles going around. Those are like fragments of the last time this has happened. And then he reveals that the 2-dimensionality of the solar system, that's not going to stop. It's just going to keep growing, and eventually the whole solar system will be, or the whole universe will be 2-dimensional. And that's just the way it's going to go. But there is a belief that at the end of the universe, when the great crunch occurs, sort of the Big Bang and then rapid expansion and then slowing down, and then gravity pulls everything back together for a great crunch, and then boom, Big Bang 2.0 occurs and recreates the universe. I say 2.0, it could be the infinite time that it's time is weird that it happened. But anyways, the belief is that maybe once you get the speed of light down so slow and so many down to like 2 or 1 dimensions that the next time the universe creates itself, it will go back to the Edenic age, where light speed will be infinite, near infinite, and there'll be multiple dimensions. And so that's sort of their one hope, is that at the end of the universe, all will be born anew. But anyways, so they're talking to this person in AA. It's sort of hinted that AA sort of fallen in love with this guy. He's like ruggedly handsome. But they detect a few ships landing on a nearby planet. They're like, who are these aliens that are landing on a nearby planet? We got to go investigate. So the man goes, and Chenzin's like, I'll go with you. I have to go. What if it's Tianming? He told me he would meet me at the star, which is what he did after he told her the fairy tales. He said, we'll meet again on your star. So they're like, fine. They leave AA and they go to the planet. And there they find these things called death lines, which are regions of space that have been the speed of light has been reduced to 0 in these death lines, and it's revealed that any sort of disturbance of them will cause them to expand and enclose the entire system in a black domain, or a light shroud, as the galactic humans call it. And because that's how it's revealed that black domains occur. That's how you reduce light, the speed of light, is you travel at the speed of light all around the solar system. And by traveling at the speed of light, you're sort of because light speed travel has to do with curving space-time, so that you curve it more in front of the ship rather than behind the ship, so that you sort of slip ahead, so you're sort of slipping across space-time. But doing it irrevocably changes and alters space-time. But if you do it a whole bunch, it will affect space-time to the point where it reduces the speed of light. Anyway, so there's these death lines that have been created by these mysterious alien spaceships. They're like, oh dear, we got to get out of the system, because these could expand at any moment, and then we'd be trapped here forever. So they're going back to the planet, and then AA messages them and is like, hey guys, you're never going to believe it, Tianming's here. And you're like, oh, they're going to have like the reunion. And she said, he's got a present for you. And then she cuts off. And then there's a moment of sort of weightlessness and blackness. And then it's revealed that the death lines have expanded, and the whole solar system is now in, not solar system, but the whole star system is now in a black domain. The speed of light has been significantly reduced, but because they were in a ship that was traveling at a certain speed, when light speed got reduced, that they are now traveling at light speed, which, because of special relativity, subjective time on the planet versus them traveling at the speed of light in the ship, lots of time is passing, not on the ship but on the planet. So the ship's shut down because it's, of course, run by computers that can't operate unless light speed is super fast, and now it's super slow. But they have a backup neural computer, because they're like, this sort of thing happens, and if we ever get trapped, we wanted to have a backup. So they have a backup, but it takes like weeks for it to get online. So by the time they get it online and manage to slow the ship down from relativistic speeds, 18 million years has passed. So you think she's finally, Chenxin and Tianming are finally going to have the reunion at the end of at the star, and it would be a romantic sort of end to the story, a bittersweet, like humanity and Earth is destroyed, the whole solar system is destroyed, but these two lovers across the universe manage to find each other. And but no, as soon as they find each other, the black domain occurs, and 18 million years passes. So they go down to the planet, and geological ages have passed, so there's no sign of anything. They do a whole bunch of deep scans, and they manage to find this layer of bedrock meters and meters down below that has some carvings on it, and they can't make out all of it, but it seems to be sort of like a message like, Chenxin, we hope you live happily ever after, we've lived a great life here, we've left something for you, etc., etc. But again, the message isn't even complete, so we don't even know what they were saying. And so yeah, it's just like loss upon loss upon loss. Like if Chenxin hadn't have decided to go on the ship to go check out the other planet, if she had just stayed with AA, she would have met with Tianming. and could have spent the rest of their lives together. But anyways, it turns out that the thing that Tianming had gotten from the Trisolarans that he had left there for Cixin was a pocket universe, a 1 kilometer cubed pocket universe that has like a farmhouse and some croplands. And Sophon's there, and she's sort of there as a little helper, and she lets Cixin know that Tianmin had created this for her, and that so her and that other man whose name I can't remember are supposed to spend out a number of years there, and the relative years in this universe will be such that they can sort of wait out the end of the universe, the greater universe, the main universe, which will then revitalize itself and hopefully enter an Edenic era where light speed will be infinite and there'll be multiple dimensions again. And so they spend lots of time there, and so they're farming, but they also have sort of the version of the Trisolaran internet. So they're always searching up stuff and going through Trisolaran data and information and science, and of course they have to learn the Trisolaran language as well. But after I think a couple years, they get a message from outside the universe, and this message is in like, I forget how many languages, either thousands of languages or maybe millions of languages. But a couple of those languages that it sends out are Trisolaran and Earth languages. So they're like, wow, throughout the whole universe, after billions and billions of years, these people have survived enough that their languages have survived. And the message is that, because there's apparently multiple of these pocket universes that people have created to sort of wait out the end, it's revealed that the big crunch will not occur because there's not enough mass in the universe to pull itself back in, because that mass has been removed to create these pocket universes. So the call is going out that in order to save the universe, you need to dismantle your pocket universes and give your mass back to the universe. And so Cixin and this guy, of course, agree to do so. So they strip the whole place down and send it back to the main universe. But they leave sort of a small time capsule, small message in a bottle that contains all the civilization, art and culture and history of both Earth and Trisolaris, so that if the universe does reset itself, that will perhaps survive. But then they're also like, it might be even if there's one atom missing from the mass of the universe, the Great Crunch might not occur. And it's sort of left up in the air, but in the end, Cixin re-enters the universe near its heat death. And sort of a very depressing, not much hope for the future, if there will be a future left. So yeah, that was the whole book. Holy cow. The first book of the trilogy was very grounded, very much Earth and one aliens on a planet that is like one not that far away. The next book sort of expanded to galactic levels, and we expand centuries. This expanded to universal levels in billions of years, and sort of went super far, but I think it went too far to be grounded. I think I enjoyed the second book better. I still did enjoy this book, but it didn't emotionally resonate with me as much as I would have thought it would have if I had known what was going to happen. Like, I don't know if it was just a translation thing, but you would think that I maybe would have been more emotional if Tianming and Cixin had their reunion, rather than being this close to each other after centuries and light years apart, and then being separated for all time. I don't know. Anyways, that was Death's End. Just a phenomenal science fiction series. It really does deserve all the credit it gets. I mean, this one was published in 2010, or written in 2010, or published written. Copyright 2010, which is quite a while ago, like 15 years almost. But it's really good. I still think that the best sort of sci-fi fantasy. Was written from like 2005 to 2015, 20. Anyways, that was Cixin Liu's Death's End, the end of Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy. It's a big one, but it's well worth it. The sort of the time skips, which happen a lot in this one, sort of keep it fresh and keep it interesting. The different time periods and the different technologies and the way humanity's sort of organized differently. I didn't get into details because we'd be here all night, but it was really interesting. So there's that one.